All right, welcome everyone to our Sanford School Alumni Career Panel. We are so fortunate tonight that we have 7 wonderful alumni who are going to be talking about their career paths and just the journey that, that they have been on since they got their degrees with us from the Sanford School. So we are going to begin. I wanted to take a moment to introduce our co-hosts. So I'm Dr. Amy Reesing. We also have Dr. Marcella Gemelli as our other co-host, and Dr. Bethany Bustamante Van Vliet as our third co-host. We'll all be playing different roles during this panel tonight. And if you know of anyone who wasn't able to join us live, we will be recording this and sharing it in case people wanted to get this information. So as we begin, I'm going to ask each of our 7 panelists to introduce themselves briefly, and feel free to share as much or as little information as you would like, but it would be wonderful if you could share your name, your current job, how long you've worked in this position, and maybe a little bit about what your job entails. And if you'd like, you can share where you are living, because we have a diverse variety of where people are around the country and even outside of the country. So Martiana, would you get us started?
Hi, everyone. My name is Martiana Bird. I am from the Bay Area, California, to be exact. I live in Levine right now. I recently graduated from ASU in May of 2021, so I am a fairly new graduate. I am a high needs case manager for JFCS, which is Jewish and Family and Children's Services. I work with families and children with behavioral health issues. Just in detail, my job, I facilitate CFTs, which are child and family teams, meetings and clinical teams. I work with therapists, DCS specialists, behavioral coaches. We just help to find and make sure that we're fulfilling those needs for those clients and children in specific that are having those behavioral issues. And I'm just there as a support system for their team. I am fairly new in my position. I just started last month. So tomorrow, which is November 4th, it'll be my 1-month anniversary in my position. And I am the CEO and founder for H2O, which is a nonprofit based out of Phoenix, Arizona. We are a sports program, and we just help facilitate change for the youth in our program through sports.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Paul, would you go next?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Paul Espinoza, and I graduated from ASU in December of 2019. I'm currently a PhD student. I'm still at ASU, so I'm still here in Arizona, a PhD student in the Family and Human Development Program. And I also work as a graduate research assistant for the Centers for Advanced Study and Practice of Hope. So I do a lot of things like aggregate data, clean data, help with reports, creating graphs, basically anything they need on the research side for help. And then I have classes as well as my own research.
Wonderful. Holly, would you introduce yourself next?
Sure. My name is Holly Clausen, and I'm actually in Canada. I'm just outside of Vancouver, BC. And I live up here with my 2 amazing teenagers. I graduated from ASU in, I think it was May of 2019. And my goal in joining the Family and Human Development Program was that I wanted to be self-employed as a parenting coach, which I had been doing unofficially and wanted to do more officially. So that's why I entered the program. So as a parenting coach and parenting educator, I have a number of different sort of roles and tasks that I do. I focused a lot on creating, developing parenting courses for parents that they can take online so that parents from sort of anywhere across the world can take these courses. I also do one-on-one parent coaching and consulting locally and via Zoom and via the phone. And that just involves sort of working with parents to identify their parenting goals. The consulting involves sort of offering research-backed strategies for helping their kids. And then also just helping parents sort of learn positive parenting techniques with their children. Um, Currently in the process of starting some in-person local parenting support groups. And I also run Facebook parenting support groups with around, I guess, almost 80,000 members now. And that's not really a lot of work. I have moderators that do that for me. So I kind of focus on the other stuff and let them deal with that. But that's kind of what I do.
Thank you, Holly. Jake, your turn.
Hi, I'm Jake Martinez. I'm currently the Director of Youth Programs at the New York Civil Liberties Union. So it's the New York State affiliate of the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. I graduated from ASU December 2010 with my bachelor's in sociology, and then in 2015 pursued the master's in family and human development in the online program. So had a little bit of the in-person and the online aspects, both really great. Really enjoyed my time in both programs. In my current role right now, we have a number of youth organizing programs. So we train young people all over New York State to know their rights and to develop their leadership skills, their capacity to organize in their schools. We work on a number of different education policy related campaigns. So ending the school to prison pipeline, stopping bullying in schools. We do legislative advocacy and litigation. And so I work with a team of attorneys, policy councils, community organizers, all different professions. And I've been doing that for about 5 years. And prior to that, I worked at GLSEN, which is an anti-bullying LGBTQ rights nonprofit as well. And so I'm happy to be here and share my experience. And it's kind of all over the place, but hoping it'll be helpful for some people, and to know that it's okay to not necessarily know where you want to go right now, and to know that there's you try a lot of things along the way until you fall into the right spot. And that's kind of where I am. So happy to share that experience, as that'll, I'm sure, be the experience of many people here.
Yeah, that's such a good point, Jake. And that's really one of the purposes of this panel today, is just to show the huge diversity of the marvelous things that our alumni are doing, and that it's okay if you don't know exactly what your path is going to be right now. Hopefully this will give you some ideas. Katie, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. My name is Katie Powley, and I'm joining you today from suburban Detroit. Up until about a month ago, we were long-term residents of Dallas, Texas, but we are in the process of moving and becoming Michiganders. So that's where I am now. I earned my master's in sociology from Arizona State in May of 2018, and I entered the program with undergraduate degrees in sociology and in nursing. I became a registered nurse in 1996, so I just celebrated my 25th anniversary of having my nursing license. When I entered the graduate program, my goal was to prepare myself for law school. While I was a student at Arizona State, I took my LSATs. I applied to 15 different law schools. I was accepted to 11 and chose a school in Dallas, at the University of North Texas, Dallas College of Law. I graduated with my Juris Doctor, my law degree, in May of 2021. In my last semester of law school, I took a job with a law firm in Dallas that specializes in elder abuse. I joined that firm as a law clerk, which is very typical when you're a law student. joined as a law clerk. And then when we found out that this move was coming up, I made the decision to defer taking the bar exam. The bar exam in Michigan is different from the bar exam in Texas. And so I needed to get this move out of the way, and then I'll be able to sit for the Michigan bar exam in February. Because I didn't take the bar exam this summer, I've been working as a legal nurse consultant for the firm in Dallas. They have been very gracious and are allowing me to work remotely, which really 2 years ago was unheard of, but it's, I guess, a positive change that we've had due to COVID. Legal nurse consultants typically have nursing licenses and have some sort of legal background, whether that's law school or have gone through a legal nurse consulting program. My job entails, I work mostly in pre-litigation. I do a lot of medical records reviews. Elder abuse law in the state of Texas kind of comes together at the nexus of medical malpractice and nursing home abuse. So we, like I said, we dig through a lot of medical records. We look for signs and symptoms of neglect. And then I prepare reports for the attorneys that I work with, where I go into detail about things that are very concerning in the medical record. And then I will go with the attorneys that in the firm, I'll go into mediations with them and kind of be their clinical guide. Sometimes the opposing counsel may say something that's not quite right, or they may try to spend something that clinically doesn't hold up. So it's in those situations, it's really good to have a clinical background. Like I said, I entered the graduate program at Arizona State wanting to prepare myself for law school, and it was the right decision for me. It prepared me for law schools in ways that I could not have anticipated prior to law school.
Wonderful. Thank you for that information. Courtney, can you please introduce yourself next?
Hello, everyone. My name is Courtney Stowers. I currently live in the greater Philadelphia area. I moved here about 6 months ago. Prior to that, I lived over in Arizona and California, and I've also lived in Northern Illinois. I currently work as a data analyst for a nonprofit organization that contracts with the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, and we specialize in evaluating nursing homes to ensure that they're meeting the standards that CMS sets. So for instance, if patients need to receive vaccinations or if the staff should have certain amounts of training, then we analyze the data to make sure that they aren't getting infections or that they've met their vaccinations. And then we return the reports to CMS. And so we specialize in rural hospitals and rural nursing homes that a lot of times don't have interventions or as much access to resources. And the organization sends out healthcare specialists that go and work in person with the staff and with the patients. And then as the data analysts, we ensure that these interventions are working and identify areas that may be going overlooked and provide additional interventions. And then we provide the reports back to CMS to make sure they're meeting the milestones that the nursing homes are continuing to improve throughout a 5-year period.
Thank you, Courtney. Trey, can you please introduce yourself?
Good evening, everybody. My name is Trey Watkins. I'm coming to you from not so sunny San Diego, California. Getting tired of all the perfect weather, so it's been foggy today. Yeah, it's such an honor and privilege to be here, and really surreal for me, to be perfectly honest with you. I think in my admissions letter, I said something like, if y'all let me in, I promise I'll work hard. I promise I'll make you proud. And I promise whenever you ask me to come and talk or to engage with you guys, I will be there. And so it's a privilege to be here and fulfill that promise. It's also good to see some awesome mentors of mine, Dr. Jamelli, Dr. Van Vliet, Dr. Harrison, so instrumental for my academic and professional career. It's good to see y'all tonight and be here. For my day job, I graduated from the Master's in Sociology program in May of 2018. My bachelor's is in psychology from Cal State San Bernardino. My day job, I am a program manager for career services at Point Loma Nazarene University, where I get to help students discern their calling. I get to help our students and recent alumni navigate their collegiate and post-collegiate careers. And I do a lot of stuff like this. We do alumni panels, we do a lot of classroom presentations and a lot of one-on-one engagement. It's really amazing and fulfilling. In my spare time, I'm a second-year PhD student over at the University of San Diego in the Education for Social Justice program, where my research agenda focuses on the Black college student experience. And my recent research is focused on the resurgence of Black campus activism and how social media is being used as a tool for activism on college campuses. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. I'm so excited to hear all of these stories and information about what you guys are doing. So I have some questions to ask, and I'm just going to throw it out there openly to all of the panelists, and so we can take turns. It's fine for you to answer all of the questions, or for you to choose to pass on one. And after we ask the questions that we have, sort of our preset questions, for individuals who are joining us, for students and other individuals joining us, if you have questions, feel free to put them in chat. And Dr. Gemelli will introduce those after we have answered some of these questions that we predetermined ahead of time we thought students might be interested in. So our first question. So for any of you panelists, did you go to college with the intention of getting the job or a similar job to the one that you have now? And if not, can you give us a little bit of information about your path, your career path? How did you come to be in the position that you are now? Did any other jobs that you had previously lead you to this place?
I'll go ahead and answer the question. My purpose was to be in my career field that I'm in right now, not this specific job position per se. I went from a PA, which is a parent aide, to a FCC, Family Connection Consultant, which led me to my current position. I do want to be a MFT or EFT therapist, so I'm in the correct career field. And the good thing about it is I work with therapists, and these same therapists, they came from the exact same job position I'm in. So the transition, once I do go and get my master's, I plan on attending in August ASU to get my master's. So once I do get my master's, the transition from being a HNCM to a therapist, it'll be easy and quick transitioning. And hopefully I can stay within the same organization.
I can go next. When I returned to undergrad, I was a non-traditional student. I was in my 30s. I'd had a corporate career at Apple, and I really intended to come back to ASU just to kind of expand my opportunities within that realm. I found research kind of accidentally. It was recommended to me by one of my professors, and I was not necessarily super interested in it, but they said, I think this is something that you have an aptitude for. It was a summer research program, and I decided to do it. I applied for it. I went through that program, and it really taught a lot about what grad school was like and what the opportunities that you could have with it. Prior to that, I didn't even know that grad school was an opportunity that you could have funded. I didn't know that there were programs out there that would pay you to learn. So it was kind of an eye-opening experience. It led me down a path of working in research labs, traveling internationally, doing research in Taiwan, in Chinese, and then eventually starting into this grad school career that I'm in now. But it was not my intention.
I can jump in after that. Like Paul, I am a non-traditional student. As I mentioned earlier, I've been a registered nurse for 25 years. The last part of my nursing career, I spent as a sexual assault nurse examiner. So I entered the program at ASU really wanting to focus on violence against women. And when I entered law school, my my thought was that I would stay with that focus and come out of law school and do something with victim advocacy. I think the area of elder abuse was something that I didn't know a lot about, and didn't know that there were opportunities in law in that area. I can say that there is a class that I took at Sanford on aging in the life course. And I think that really, even though I had been to nursing school, it was still information that was new and very valuable to me. And so I think maybe that planted a little seed in the back of my head about elder abuse. And so that's kind of how I ended up where I am today.
I'll go ahead and hop in. It's cool to hear fellow alumni stories, and like Paul and Katie, I was definitely not traditional. I actually got academically disqualified as an undergrad. You know how many A's you got to get in your junior and senior year to be able to make it into grad school? A lot, I'll tell you that much. But no, that my story really fuels my profession, and both academically and as in my career. And I was specifically, so I never thought I would go back to school after I graduated. It wasn't on my mind, but this, like, the decision for me to go back starts for me in 2016. 2015, we had Red Summer, right? So it's after Trayvon and, the emergence of Black Lives Matter. And I was working at a nonprofit in Monterey, and I saw the Philando Castile murder. And it was the first one that I had seen. I don't do good with stuff like that, and I purposely avoided the images, and I still do, just because it's a lot for me. And but I saw it, and it shook me to my core, right? And I was working at this nonprofit, great organization, and we did a lot of good things in the community, having lots of really hard conversations, but we weren't having this one. We weren't talking about this one. As a matter of fact, we were avoiding it outright. And so I need to better understand. I need to better understand the world, and better understand society and my place in it. So I sought out a program that would help me to do that. So I wasn't necessarily looking for job advancement, because I was cool where I was at, what I was doing, but I needed to learn some more. And so I started looking at grad programs. I looked into MPHs, I looked into MSWs, but those were too narrow for me. And the sociology program was perfect, was absolutely perfect, and such a great decision for a lot of reasons. But in particular, like Paul was mentioning, I didn't know about, being an academic. I didn't know that school could, they pay you to go to school and pay you to learn. And when I got there, I did a good job of networking and reaching out, but the professors that are here, I saw Dr. Seeley's here as well. Hey, Dr. Seeley, they're amazing. They're amazing, and they encouraged me and they poured into me. And it was actually Dr. Harrison, Dr. Jamelli, who really, one, encouraged my research and research interest, and two, encouraged me, and told me I could do this for a living. Like, I could learn things and study things and then share what I learned for a living. And so for me, that going to this program changed my entire trajectory. It, one, gave me the push to pursue grad school. So I'm, again, like I said, I'm in a PhD program now. And two, I know what my purpose is. My purpose is to make impact in the lives of individuals and communities. But having my training as a sociologist taught me where I wanted to make that change, and that was in higher education. That's where my research is focused on, the way it is directly tied to my story. And so, yeah, that's where I'm at.
I'll also jump in. When I started at ASU, I graduated my bachelor's degree in family and human development and applied quantitative science in December 2018. But when I first started at ASU, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew I liked numbers, and I knew I liked people, and they didn't really seem to go together. But then I took Dr. Van Vliet's social statistics class, and I just fell in love with the concept of using numbers to impact people's lives. And so I got to work with her as a TA and with several of the other professors within the T. Sanford School. And I learned that you could do both, you could combine them together. And then eventually in the Watts college at ASU. They created the master's program in program evaluation and data analytics that also focused on using data for nonprofits and for social good. And so after I graduated in December 2018, I completed my master's up under that program in summer 2020, so right in the middle of the pandemic. And so I really got to see how the numbers could be used working with COVID and working with patients, since that kind of transferred me over into healthcare, and getting to work in that field now and making sure that numbers can help people. And it kind of goes hand in hand, the social part and the analytics part. And so I really enjoyed that, and getting the opportunity to work with professors and see research and see that combination was really unique for me, because I didn't even know that that job existed.
I guess I'll go next. If we're talking about being non-traditional students as being old people going back to school, I'm also a non-traditional student going back in my 40s with two teenagers. And I did go back very specifically with the intention of wanting to coach parents of spirited and strong-willed kids, because that was my experience with my youngest child. And I had looked at a lot of different programs and schools, and of course I'm in Canada, so choosing to go to a US school was kind of a big deal, just even in terms of the price, right? The Canadian dollar is much lower, but the Family and Human Development master's degree just really seemed to fit what I wanted to do. I looked into sociology, counseling psychology, social work, and like I think Trey said, they all seemed a little bit too narrow. And the Family and Human Development degree, there seemed to be a lot more flexibility to pursue your own interests, especially through the fieldwork option. And so doing a graduate fellowship with Dr. Reesing, sort of developing a parenting course, that was a great experience that I don't think I could have gotten in any other program. So it's just given me a great foundation for what I wanted to do.
I think one of the things that when I got into ASU that I sort of realized was that I just like to learn. I liked to be in class, and I was just the person who was always like sitting in the front and just wanted to like absorb everything that I could. So when I first went into ASU, I changed my major, I think like 35 times. I wasn't sure. Every time I took a class and I enjoyed it, I changed my major to that class. Like, no joke. I like took so many classes there. I was just like, oh, I want to take this class and this class. And sort of after taking so many of the sociology courses, I just sort of fell into that. I just sort of fell into it. I was like, this is what I like studying society. I like learning about people. I always used to love like just like people watching and learning more about like just thinking about like what's this person doing like on the street, or like wondering like what was going on. I just started to think about that. And the job that I have right now, I think I didn't necessarily come into this job really thinking that this is what I wanted to do. I think the classes that I took at ASU on like child development, human development, just studying like young people was sort of what led me to take certain jobs that landed me into the role that I'm in now. And just thinking about like the ways in which certain things have happened over the last several years where we've seen like a rise in youth activism. Specifically, I'm thinking of like issues like the Parkland shooting or things that happened where we were seeing like young people really begin to speak out. And even before that, right, young people were beginning to have like their voices more heard. So I think like just wanting to inspire youth and empower them and let them know that like they have a voice. And I think those were the things that sort of inspired me to take the job that I have now. But I think the classes really was what helped me understand like the biology and the psychology of like young people, and just the classes in general, I think were great. And really just, I think right now where I'm at, I ended up, falling into the role that I'm in now. And then I think the internships had helped me kind of get to where I am also. Like internships are really helpful because it lets you like try out a little bit of everything. So you can kind of, you do a little trial run here and you find out if that's good, or, and that experience is really helpful as well. But I know we're going to get to that later and I can share more, but sort of where I'm at.
I was gonna say, Amy, there's a question about internships. Should we switch? Was that one of the questions? Should we switch to that, or because I'm kind of checking out the questions in the chat, and this one's like internships. It could lead us right into it.
Yeah, let's definitely jump into that.
Okay, so from Jonah, that's a great question. How have internships both positively and negatively impacted your paths and your lives overall?
I can respond. during my time at Arizona State, as part of the capstone program, I did an internship with a women's shelter that's based out of Greenville, Texas, which is of kind of a far east suburb of Dallas. Genesis also owns a location in Rockwall, Texas, which is where I spent most of my time. I entered that, full disclosure, I entered that internship because it was a requirement for graduation. What I found though was when I got there and did the work and started interacting and started networking, even prior to law school, I had the opportunity to go into the courtroom to talk to district attorneys and assistant district attorneys who specialized in violence against women. Specifically, there are some assistant district attorneys in Texas whose positions are solely funded by the Violence Against Women Act, by VAWA. And then what I learned is that in Texas, especially in an area as big as Dallas, the legal community is very, very small. And I really didn't understand the power of networking within that community until I got into law school. But that internship experience really gave me kind of a leg up. It introduced me to those legal circles before I ever even got to law school. And that was really beneficial for me.
Yeah, I'll second that, Katie. Internships as an individual have been very beneficial to me. And then as a professional advising students on, how to take the next step in their career, it's a great way to gain experience and try out an industry and see, if you like it. During my time there, and like I said, I was working in nonprofit work before I decided to make the transition to higher ed. And to do that, you need experience, right? And so, I did an internship at Cal State Monterey Bay in the Greek life department. And that was a great experience. I got to work directly with students. I got to work very closely with the program manager there, developing curriculum, doing events, doing planning. Actually still very close colleagues. We pass things back and forth still today. So that was a great experience for me. And then even, having to gain tangible, relatable, direct experience to getting into higher education. I took short-term stints at junior colleges. I actually had a bad job at a private university that won't be named. But all those experiences helped develop me and help, me learn the good things and the bad things that I want to take, so that when this opportunity came, I was ready and I could speak to all those things, and all those experiences counted. The internships counted, the part-time jobs counted, the full-time jobs counted, and even independent projects that I've worked on have counted as well. So internships are an awesome way to get some base experience and test the waters a little bit.
Anyone else want to share anything about their fieldwork experience or internship experience, how it impacted them?
I won't say like more about the internships themselves, but I think one of the things that I learned from the internships was not just the experience, but also the people that you meet. The supervisors or the colleagues that I had in the internships that I was a part of, I think was also what set me up for certain jobs that I got later on down the line. So I think relationship building is incredibly important. And so I think it's another important piece of the internship experience, whether that's in college or graduate school. Those relationships are really important.
Yes, I agree. I think academia is very small, and so networking is extremely important. Pretty much whatever you're going to be doing, and I think Katie found that out about how small the community was that she was looking at, and I think it's true in many areas. There was a related question also asking Holly to maybe talk a little bit more about which class, or it was part of the capstone. So could you share a little bit more about your capstone experience about developing the online parenting?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so that was probably one of the best parts of the program, was just being able to sort of decide exactly what I wanted to do and get support and help creating that course for parents. So for sure, that was an important course for me. some of the more surprising courses that ended up actually being really important to me were statistics, which I was dreading because I had failed pre-calculus years earlier. And so I was going in thinking I was going to fail statistics. And that was the very first course I took, and ended up loving it. And that ended up just being really important in terms of evaluating research and being able to read journal articles and figure out how does this apply to the parents I work with. Um, Also, the diversity class was another class. I was like, I don't know how this is going to apply to what I'm doing, but just sort of learning more about my own privilege in the world was super eye-opening for me and has just kind of changed the way that I work with different populations. And yeah, so those are kind of the three courses that stand out to me as being really transformational for me.
We have some good questions in the chat. Some are specific, but I think one, from Katie Heaton is, Jake, how did you stay connected to your professors and or classmates while doing grad school online? And I know that some of you, if you'd like to jump in, who have also gotten your degrees online, you're more than welcome to mention that as well.
I mean, the easy one was that I still work for ASU. So the whole time, the last like 10 years I've been working for ASU. I think I've honestly been working for ASU since I graduated with my undergrad. I think I might have took like 1 or 2 years off, but like I've been working with the faculty here for so long that I feel like I live and breathe ASU, and it's just like it was just such a great experience to be able to like continue to keep that relationship. Classmates, I think, is a little tough because when you're online, I think you have to get creative in the ways that you can connect with your colleagues. I think it's important to utilize like the online tools that are available, but also like taking advantage of whenever an instructor has like online study sessions or things like that, I think are really important because you can also meet with people in a more intimate space. But I really think that like this is sort of related, but I think that the professors and all the instructors especially in the Sanford school, like really care about the students and really love their jobs. And I think that just makes it so much easier to stay connected with people and just keep those relationships because you genuinely enjoy each other's company. It's like just seeing an old friend, like whenever you send an email. So I feel like it's, it was easy in that sense that like I really enjoyed my time, right? Being a student and being an employee of the university. I think that everything that I've done with the school has been positive. And so it's just a relationship that I seek to maintain. But I think through the courses, especially the online courses, you do have to get a little bit creative in how you can connect with people. I think discussion boards, are one way that you can connect with people, not just for your assignments, but also there's like different tools, right? Asking questions, reaching out for support. That's really important too. And understanding that like everyone's coming from all different parts of the world, usually when you're in some of these classes, especially if they're online, and then you can connect with people, who might even be in your state, right? Where you don't necessarily, for example, I was in New York, but there was also another student in New York. So I was able to connect with them and actually do study sessions and things like that, which I think was really helpful. So, it takes a little bit of creativity, but there's lots of ideas, and the instructors are also super helpful in supporting you and thinking through like what it could look like to connect with your classmates online.
I'll hop in on this one and try to tackle a couple of different issues. There's a couple of questions in here for me, so I'll touch on those a bit. But as far as connecting with classmates and with professors in an online environment, I'll just encourage you to just shoot your shot. Is the biggest words of encouragement I can give you. And from experience, I'll tell you, the professors in this department that are here tonight, when I emailed them to introduce myself, to let them know why I was in the program and what I wanted to do and ask questions, they've been responsive from day one all the way through now. Dr. Jameli and I caught up a couple of weeks ago, and it was awesome. So, they're here because they love their field, they love their work, but they also love to teach and they love students. And so if you reach out to them, you will definitely get a response. They'll definitely be there to nurture you and train you and be there for you. So yeah, do that. And then as far as for classmates, I've been in a virtual world for the last year and a half, starting grad school, right? Again, the doctoral program. So having to do that with my classmates, right? Build those. We have a group chat, a cohort group chat. The discussion boards, like Jake was saying, is a great way to see whose interests align and kind of see what the vibe can be. And again, shoot your shot and say, hey, It's me. That's what I'm interested in. Can we be friends? And it's a good way to build connections that way, just by being vulnerable and sharing with yourself. Someone asked about being disqualified from grad school just to, but I was disqualified as an undergrad. I've had straight A's ever since. But in my personal statement, I was just honest with it. I was honest and shared with where I was at the moment and what I had done in the meantime to prepare myself. When I decided I wanted to go back to grad school, I didn't just apply. I actually, and especially in an online environment, I went online, I went to YouTube, and I believe a couple professors, I forget the brother's name, from Yale, had a couple classes online. So I took the classes online just by myself to see if I could do it, to see if I could, would be willing to put in the time and the effort to do it. And I did. So that gave me the inspiration to apply. So don't hide from it and prepare. And someone was asking about grad school and how do you prepare for that? And that combines all those things. Again, I wouldn't be here where I'm at today if I wasn't for my professors. So you want to immerse yourself in the culture. Being an academic, being a scholar is kind of crazy. Like you're going back to school again, you're putting yourself through the system again, you're challenging yourself again, but it's at a such deeper level. And so you got to read, you got to write, you got to be in dialogue with other folks. When I got this office, you see all these books, that was the first thing I brought in. I'm an avid reader. I read so much, not just within my discipline, but around it as well. You want to read widely and deeply. I wrote a blog when I wasn't working. I blogged. That stuff was so good for me, not only as a writer and as a scholar and academic, but professionally. I put that stuff on my LinkedIn. That's how I got this job, was through a LinkedIn connection that saw all the activity I was doing and, suggested that, I talked with my now boss for this job. Just be around other academics. Twitter is a great space for me to do that, to connect. I have DM people, read papers that I've read, read papers that they've written and told them how much I loved it, engaged with them. They've sent me books, they sent me things, they've looked at my papers and things of that nature. So you just want to, again, connect as much as you possible, and don't be afraid to put yourself out here, because at a certain point, we've all had to do it and we understand what it's like. And if any of y'all were to reach out to me, I'd be glad to share time, because that's one thing that academics can do is talk. So they're probably not going to tell you no.
Thank you, Trey. I think you covered a few questions, but maybe Paul, I'll also ask, there is questions about, moving on to grad school and some of the best tips that you might be able to provide since, you're in the PhD. So for some of our students who might be interested in that path, what can set them up for success?
Great question. I think the first thing is networking. I know that it's been mentioned earlier. Katie mentioned it, Trey mentioned it, a few people have mentioned networking. Really, I would not be where I am. I would not be in this PhD program if I had not met the mentors that I have met and been able to rely on them. Dr. Gemelli is someone I regularly meet with still and seek advice from. I think the most important thing, if you're looking at, are you talking about towards getting into grad school or when you're in grad school?
I think it's when you're getting into grad school. So that path of, maybe applying or, maybe what best steps can you take?
So I think identifying what it is you want to study, identify that first. And then look for, whatever institutions you're interested in going to, look for people that study or that do research around similar topics. It doesn't have to be an exact match. In fact, I would recommend against finding an exact match, because you kind of want to create your own niche, right? So what you want to do is find people who are doing work that you're interested in, work that you're inspired in. If it's a really big name in academia, if it's somebody that you think, oh, I'm never going to be able to get in with them, that's okay. Look for the people they have trained and then meet with them and talk with them and find out what their options are and what their fields are. So it's really doing a lot of work on your own, trying to find what programs are out there that fit the interests that you have, and then what people in those programs, what faculty members in those programs are also doing the things that you're interested in. For example, myself, I don't have a perfect alignment. My overall interests are looking at how social media impacts our identity development. And so a lot of that is relationship work, like what relationships you engage in online and how those relationships work. And so my advisor actually does a lot of relationship work. She doesn't do any work regarding online or social media, but she is a relationship expert. So it's kind of like looking for how these people match with your interests.
Thank you, Paul.
Mhm.
So we have some amazing questions. I know we've got about 10 minutes, actually. This is wonderful. So, and anyone can answer this. If you've had several career choices, would you rather follow your heart, your passion, or other side things? Like, so should you consider really employment benefits or better income, or do you follow your heart? I think, Courtney, would you like to weigh in on that?
Yes, I'll weigh in on that. I think uniquely what I kind of found, because I was interested in people and I also liked numbers, I think you'll find that there's a lot of niches out there and there's a lot of intersections between topics that you're interested in sort of more traditional pathways. So if there's a certain passion that you have, normally there's someone else out there too that has a similar interest. And so you can kind of find a pathway where you can put your heart goal into action and then kind of turn it into a career path. So for instance, if you care about animals or if you care about children, you can kind of research different ways that you can put that passion into action and then turn it into a career path. And so you can also reach out to your professors. And also ASU has a really great career services department, because when I also wasn't really sure what I wanted to do, I reached out to the career services and they had a nonprofit advisor, they had a social services advisor, they had all these different advisors that specialize in different topics, and they can kind of help guide you how you can turn that passion into a career. And so I would really recommend kind of scheduling a meeting and reaching out to them, and they can give you some great advice on how to turn your passion into a career path.
Martiana, I noticed you were nodding your head, so please.
Yeah, I'm very passionate. I say you keep exploring your goals and your interests and make sure whatever you're doing, you're having fun. I feel like the worst thing you can do is to get stuck in a career field where you're unhappy deep down inside. And then find the things that make you happy, continue to feed into your passion and your interests. And we've all said it, network, put yourself out there, ask a lot of questions. I ask a lot of questions, even if I'm going to sound repetitive. I'm going to ask a lot of questions and making sure that I'm being responsive. I'm building relationships with your peers. Always be willing to learn. I feel like when you truly have a passion for something, you'll be okay with wanting to learn more and you're going to be a lot more comfortable with the wanting to ask those questions. And then you're going to use your skills you've learned to the best of your ability, and then it'll just flow. To answer the question, I believe, sorry, let me open the chat. Do I have any tips? I would say I started my nonprofit in 2019, and it was a passion of mine working with the youth in sports and things like that. So I knew that it wasn't going to be easy. I did a lot of networking. I did a lot of research. I asked a lot of questions. I have a lot of peers that they have their own businesses, and I wasn't afraid to ask questions. So figure out what you want to do, what your passion is, and if you want to go into making an LLC, a nonprofit, use your peers, use your professors, not in a negative way, but they're there to help. I feel like our college, we have the best professors and staff members out there. So they're not selfish to feed for you guys to feed off on them. They'll be willing to answer as many questions as possible. And then just don't be afraid. Don't be nervous. Try new things and just have fun in whatever career field you're in.
So we do have a few. I know. Oh, thank you, Miriam. I'm glad this is beneficial. So there is a question about, I think, Paul, you're mentioning, and it might be maybe businesses or not, but I think for PhDs, a lot of times students can be funded, right? Like you're actually
Right.
Let's not get
So,
crazy with how much you're getting paid to go to school and learn, but.
yeah. So what I didn't know and I learned through my research fellowship is that there are a lot of, as long as you're earning good grades, there are a lot of programs out there, PhD programs that they want you to come and to learn and to get these higher education degrees. So they fund the program fully in exchange for you providing some type of a work situation. So like I provide 10 hours of service right now to an RA project, and that pays in exchange for my school. So I don't have an outside job. I have a job within ASU, and then I have my schooling as well. So there are a lot of different options out there. Just make sure to look into them. Some say partially funded, so I avoided those. I only went for the ones that were fully funded, but there are a lot of options out there.
If I don't mind, can I hop in on that too? Like I said, I didn't know about what it meant to be funded or not before I started my master's program. And actually, my second year for the master's program was funded. Dr. Gemelli offered me a graduate assistantship. I was the TA for a year and a half for a few of our professors on here. And so my school was paid for and I got a stipend as well, which was really dope, giving me that experience in that as well. And so my current program actually isn't fully funded. I'm really close, and I'll be there next year, but not quite yet. But just like even to piggyback on the last question about like how do you pick a career, and Courtney and Martiana, sorry, excuse me, I'm gonna need y'all on a panel of mine because y'all are speaking all the career services truth, and I appreciate it. So all the stuff they said is 100% I agree with. But yeah, you want to do your research, right? And there's a particular reason I chose this program. It was the first year of the program. It's Education for Social Justice, and that's exactly what I wanted to do. With my different career choices, it's a spectrum, right? At some points, making money is going to be the most important thing. At some points, family is going to be the most important thing, right? And like the lady said, the most important thing you can do is one, know who you are and what you want to do, and then two, resources, right? So that when the opportunities come, you can make the best decision based off where you're at in your time. But if you know what you ultimately want to do, you can take positions and follow your passions in other ways if necessary, based on where you're at in your life.
And Holly, I think that brings a question from Juana for you. She's in the FHD master's program. She's curious about the career of parent and family education. So what advice do you have in pursuing the career? And she says, she doesn't have experience of having kids, but really, wants to be in this area.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely don't let that hold you back, not having kids. I think like everybody else has said, networking is so important. Even though I did have kids and a really strong interest in parenting education and support, I kind of made it my goal while I was in the program to just set up meetings with local community organizations, counselors, all sorts of people who work in the field, just to introduce myself, let them know sort of what my intentions were, ask them lots of questions, like somebody else has said, and just kind of become like a known presence in the community. So that once I graduated, I was getting referrals and people knew who I was and I wasn't like some outsider. So I would say, yeah, if you can network, even volunteer to work in child development organizations, your local early intervention or community services, and that will give you sort of a really good foot in the door in the field.
I know we have one question, but I'm wondering, Jackie and Paul, if I might be able to connect you, because it sounds like it could be a longer conversation that you might be have. Sounds like media studies and your research. So
yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to meet with anybody. Sure.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope that's okay, Jackie.
So we have about 5 minutes left. And I thought we could end with kind of a general question. Maybe everybody just take 30 seconds or a minute to share any sort of words of wisdom, advice that you might give to people as they are looking to explore their career options and goals. Anyone want to start with some words of wisdom or advice?
I think I would just want to say that I think it's totally normal, whether you're doing your bachelor's or your master's, to really have no idea what you want to do. And you've taken the program that you're taking for a reason, and it's probably because you're passionate about what you're learning. And I think if you can sort of figure out what your passion is, you may not know what your career is going to be or what your specific job is going to be, but figure out what you're passionate about and why you're passionate about it. And then that can sort of transfer to all sorts of different jobs and careers. For instance, for me, I went in because I'm passionate about parenting support and education. Now that my kids are getting ready to go off into the world, I'm not as interested in parenting as I was, but I can use the skills that I've learned and my education to move into, a similar field.
I would also say don't be afraid to try. I probably let myself sit for about a year thinking I would never be able to go to grad school because the idea of the GRE scared me. The math section of the GRE, math was never my friend. I also quite like stats, like Holly was talking about, but math was a big fear for me. So I would just say, don't let your fears prevent you from trying, because if I would have done that, I wouldn't be where I am.
I'll say, make a list of your goals, whether it's short term or if it's long term goals. Just put it in atmosphere. I'm a strong believer in putting things in atmosphere and then working for it. And whatever gives you that thrill and or sparks your interest, just keep at it. Take everything at a day by day process and be gentle with yourself. We're all in college. Well, some of us are done, but we all have our life, day-to-day goals and day-to-day things that we have to tackle. Just be patient with yourself, and it's easy to let life and our problems knock us off out of our course. But if we just stay consistent and stay dedicated and be patient with yourself, I feel like consistency and patience, they're like my best friends now. And I wasn't always like this, but it just took a lot of time and just having fun and being patient and taking my courses, doing everything that everyone's on the panel we've talked about and we've suggested, and just go out and do your best. That's my only things that I would leave you guys with.
I would say don't be afraid to ask for help. I know sometimes in an online environment, you can kind of feel isolated, but everybody else is in the same position as you. So if you have other classmates or the professors or the TAs, they're all there to help you. So don't feel like, you're not learning or like you're not as smart as the other people in the group. Be willing to reach out and they'll be happy to help. So just always reach out if you need to.
Yeah, I was going to add to that. I would say one of the things that I learned is don't compare yourself to other people and their career paths. Like, I think oftentimes when I was in college, I was looking at where other people were at when they graduated. Oh, this person's doing this thing and I'm not there yet. Like, I think you have to show yourself some grace and think about like the different, everyone has their own path. And so I think it's important to recognize that, because I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we all face, is that we look at other people and we want to compare ourselves to their experience. So it's really important for us to just, recognize that like we're all on different paths. We're all taking, it's okay to take your time, right? Everyone here has shared that they have found their career path or their profession at one point or another in their life. So it will come to you. You just have to be patient. And also leverage your instructors. They're here for a reason. You can ask them questions about how they got into their career. You can ask them for advice and lean on them for support as well.
To jump on something that Jake said, he used a word and he came back to it a couple of times, this word path. And I think, and this is specifically, I'm speaking to the younger students that are here right now. My first time through undergrad, I viewed it as a means to an end. I felt tremendous amount of pressure to get through, get done, get a job, get out in the world, be done with school. And when I came back to school as an adult, I'm in my early 40s, I kind of had this revelation that education is a journey, and life goes on during that journey, and you grow, and not only do you grow in your academic life, you grow in your personal life and your professional lives based on what you're doing. So don't look at graduate school. If you're considering graduate school and you think, oh, you know, I don't want to put off getting out into the real world. You're not putting off getting out into the real world. You're embracing it and learning to use it to ways that benefit you and your community.
Yeah, I agree with all the advice by the fellow panelists have said. So I'll offer encouragement. Number one, you're enough. I know it's tough. I know it's hard, but you have everything that you need to be successful, and you have support. You have professors, you have classmates that are willing to support you. If you ask, number two, you're needed. If you're in one of these programs, it means you care about people. And if you've looked around, we got a lot of people problems, right? And so we need your skills, we need your experience, we need your insights to help us get through. And number three, you're gonna be just fine. We've been through a lot in these last couple of years as a society and as individuals. But you know, we're here, we're still here, right? And we're still doing it. And let me look at this screen, look at who's in your class, look who the people you talk to and interact with. There's reinforcements coming. I fully believe we're gonna make it through this even better. And so, yeah, just keep going.
Thank you all so much. I am inspired, and I can see from the messages from others that others are inspired. I know I speak for Dr. Jameli and Dr. Van Vliet that this panel has far exceeded our expectations, and we are just thrilled that our panelists were able to join us tonight, and that we had so many marvelous students and colleagues in attendance. And I want to be respectful of all of our times and let us go and enjoy the rest of our evenings. But just want to say a wholehearted thank you to all of you. And it has been marvelous to hear from everyone tonight. So thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Stay safe and healthy. And we hope to interact with you again soon. Thank you.